All right, today we're going to bind a simple sketchbook, and it's just going to have a single signature, meaning internal stacked sheets of paper, and it's going to have 10 pages that we fold in half. So you'll have actually 20 pages in your sketchbook. It'll have a cover liner sheet that will be a single piece of colored construction paper, and we're going to actually glue this to a fancy cover later. You'll need your bookbinding needle. You'll need a length of thread or embroidery floss. It's about the length of my arm, so not too long. And we'll need a push pin to make some holes for us to sew through. You will also need a ruler or some other kind of tool to flatten your folds. You can measure your holes if you'd like, but you don't need to. And you probably want a pencil to mark where those holes will go. So let's get started. The first part that you need to know is that you want your folds to be nice and crisp. So when I fold in half, I can hold my hand here to keep this edge from moving. And then I'm going to make sure that this fold, if I just use my finger, it's kind of a lazy fold. You can see the air here. I want it nice and crisp. So I'm going to burnish the ends with my ruler. So I'm holding it kind of at an angle and just running it along the side. You can also do it this way. This is fine. And what that does is now the fold is much more crisp. There's no air there. It's a crisp fold. You can also use your fingernails if you've got them. So we're going to do that with the cover sheet. We're also going to do that with all 10 of our white pages. And you want to do these individually. If you cut corners and you do too many all together, your pages will probably not line up and they won't look as nice in the long run. So I have these 3 done, and I already have the rest of my 10 all folded. Now that I have them all individually folded, I'm going to stack them. So I'm going to open them up like a little booklet, and I'm going to stack the V's. So here's 1, 2. So I'm opening each one and I'm aligning the V's in the middle. All right, now that I have everything stacked, I need one more thing. These paper clips or binder clips or anything like that are going to help everything stay in place, because once we start sewing, we don't want it to move. So I'm putting them kind of close to the fold and making sure my edges are all lined up. So I've got 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and I'm making sure my edges line up. They might not be perfect if the paper wasn't cut perfectly, but that's okay. Now, you could measure this, but we are just going to guess. We're going to make 5 equally spaced dots. So we're going to look at our book, and we're going to put 1 dot in the middle. Then we're going to put a dot towards each end, about a 1/2 inch or so in. So we've got 1 at each end, 1 dead in the middle. Then we're going to split that in half, and we're going to put a dot in the middle from here to here, and the middle from here to here. To help us understand better, we're going to label these A, B, C, D, and E. You can erase these letters later if you like. Now we need to prime our holes because this tapestry needle is blunt. It's not sharp. It also, even if it was sharp, it'd be hard to poke through all these pages. So if you have something fancy like an owl, you can use that. But a push pin works just fine. You're going to push straight through. So it goes all the way to the back. The goal is to come right out this fold. It's okay if it's a little to the side. Try to go straight through all the way. And then you're going to wiggle. That's going to make the hole a little bit bigger to fit this big tapestry needle through it. And we're going to do that at each of our folds. or dots rather, in the fold. So you're going to have 5, poke through, wiggle. Make sure that your fingers are not right behind it. You don't want to stab your finger, it will hurt. All right, there we go. Now, because we're going to cover this, I want my tail threads, my extra thread on the outside. So I'm going to start sewing on the outside. And take my thread, make sure it's not tangled, and I'm going to pass the little tail through the eye. And I'm going to leave it hanging. No knots. Do not tie a knot. No knots. I'm going to start at the outside at letter C, and I'm going to pass my needle through to the inside. So here it is on the inside. And I'm going to pull that through until there's just a little tail hanging. About a couple inches, enough to tie a knot with at the end. We're going to use this just to secure the whole thing later. Now, from C, we're going to go this way, but pay attention. So we're going to go from C to B. So back to the outside. Make sure that you don't keep pulling and lose your tail. Your tail's going to hang there. Then we're going to go up through letter A. So from the outside to the inside, not around the edge. Here, up through letter A. And now we're going to go back down through letter B. All right, now it should start to kind of catch. It won't slide as much. From letter B, you're going to be tempted to go through C. Don't. Go all the way to D. This is the important part. Make a one long stitch and go up through letter D. Go back down through letter E. Up again through D, similar to what we did just before. We go up through E. Up through D. There's from E to D. If your thread comes off, you just put it back on, no big deal. Make sure that you're only sewing with one thickness, so this little tail is going to get kind of short towards the end. So if it slides off a lot, you can pinch the eye, and that will help you not drop your thread. Up through letter D. And then last one, back through C. So you should have a line in the middle, if you did it right, and a line on the outside. All right, now we actually want it to come off the threads. Now remember that one long stitch? We want this to be nice and strong, so we're going to slide one thread on either side. We're going to give them a little tug. Make sure everything is pulled a little bit tight. And now we're going to tie some overhand knots. You know you did it right if it's trapped in the middle. And I'm just going to tie those a couple times. If you don't do that, this knot is going to go right through that hole. You have to secure it to this long thread. And I'm just going to trim, not too close, but I'm going to leave a tiny tail, trim the excess. You can take off your paper clips. And now you have a single signature ready to be glued to your cover.